Well, as the second presidential gender-based violence and femicide summit gets underway, or is set to get underway tomorrow, government has outlined strides made in the implementation of the national strategic plan in the fight against gender-based violence. The summit will kick off, as I was saying, tomorrow, where government will take stock and discuss what else still needs to be achieved. Mbali, Thethani is live for us this afternoon on this story. Very important, Mbali, when you consider that throughout the months we're still hearing reports of hundreds of women being murdered each quarter.
That's certainly right, Tembegile. And of course, this is something that the president has highlighted as another pandemic that the country continues to face. And you'd even remember at the height of COVID-19, this seemed to be a problem that government and, society as a whole continued to grapple with. But of course, at the same time, which is also currently under the spotlight, is of course the murder against women and of course the murder against children. But just joining us now, Tembegile, just to give us a bit of more insight in terms of why we are having this summit and how important it is to society. We are joined by the DG for the Department of Women, Children, Youth and Persons with Disability. Her name is Mikateko Maluleke. Thank you very much for joining us, DG. Of course, thank you very much. Of course, tomorrow we are seeing the summit kicking off, a very important summit. But at the same time, what are the most tangible, strides in terms of gender-based violence that government has made?
There are lots of strides. I think the first one, just being able to work together, government, civil society, labor and private sector to address gender-based violence. That is an achievement. We might not have been able to achieve a lot, but working together, it gives a shift to how we approach gender-based violence. But also the legislations that have been amended, they are giving more powers to the victims. But the challenge is, when you look at the legislation deals with those that have already been affected. So as government, more especially as the Department of Women, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, we want gender-based violence to stop, not for it to go to the courts, for victims to go to the courts. So the challenge for us and society and everyone is the prevention. How do we stop violence from happening? How do we give a 13-year-old girl an opportunity to walk on the street and not fear any harm or whatever? How do we allow women to be able to sleep, whether in a shack? I know women are not supposed to be in the shack, but some are in the shack, some are in the houses and whatever, and not be afraid that somebody is going to break your door and come in and rape you simply because you are in a shack, which the door is not as strong, or if you are in a house but they follow you and all those things. I think that is the challenge, not just for government but for everyone, because prevention is the responsibility for government, for civil society, for media, for individuals, families and everyone.
DG, as the country continues to grapple with issues around gender-based violence, of course also looking into the problems that children also face in this country, how important is a summit of this nature in terms of government's response, in terms of what they will be doing, also in line with how they will be encouraging society to also take a stand against gender-based violence?
I think this summit is important because women marched to the Union Building, they marched to the JSC, they marched to the appeal court, they marched to different places to say, women are dying, can you please stand up and do something? That was important because everybody had to stand up. Now we have the private sector fund because women marched there, and private sector now understands that gender-based violence is not the issue of government only, but is the issue of everyone. I think what's important is the courts have been made aware of the challenges that are experiencing, the issues of DNA. The minister has already reported that they've reduced from 160,000 to 71,000 cases, but they're still working on that. They are banking that by February next year they will have finalized all that. That will really help because and he also said that some of the perpetrators is the same perpetrator who continues doing that because they've not been arrested. So this process of fast-tracking, the minister also indicated that Dr. Judy Dlamini, who's representing private sector in the private fund, is working with SAPS so that they come up with measures that would ensure that the issue of case backlog in DNA processes never happens again. That is one of the things that I think is critical, and it came out from this process. But also the other one is the rapid response teams that are being established. We have started establishing the rapid response teams in the areas where the 30 hotspots that were identified by the Minister of Police, so that the communities know where to go to when they have a challenge, because sometimes they say we call the police, they don't have cars and whatever. The rapid response team must be able to assist the communities.
Okay, DG, what else can we expect tomorrow? Of course, I know that in this press briefing you're saying that even society and normal citizens need to play their part in terms of highlighting the challenges of gender-based violence and also raising the alarm. But tomorrow, what can we expect in terms of the program, especially over the next 2 days?
We will be reporting back. Different ministers will be reporting, but the president himself also will be reporting, because the champion of this program is at that level, is the president. Civil society, there's an End Gender-Based Violence Femicide collective, where civil society works together with government and private sector. They will also be reporting, but more than anything, government, as the Leviathan, will have to report more in terms of what it has done.
All right, thank you very much. Of course, that is Mika Teko. She is the DG in the Department of Women, Children, Youth and Persons with Disabilities, just giving us an insight in terms of, what can we expect tomorrow going forward over the next 2 days, where we will see the President also being at that presidential summit, highlighting the problems of gender-based violence in this country.
Mbali, Thethani, thank you very much for that update, Mbali.